Day Shift, out on Netflix, feature debut of director J.J. Petty. It's a vampire action comedy starring Jamie Foxx, Dave Franco, and Snoop Dogg. The concept is pretty interesting on paper. Jamie Foxx is a down-on-his-luck pool cleaner living in LA. He's separated from his wife and he's trying to do the best he can with his young daughter. Now, unless he can somehow provide money for her school tuition, the ex-wife has no choice but to leave and move all the way to Florida to her parents. So Jamie tries his best to raise the money, to get a gig which will get him enough money in time. But here's the twist. He's not actually a pool cleaner, he's a vampire hunter. And the reason he's so down on his luck is because he's been kicked out of the vampire hunter union. He reaches out for help to a friend who gets him reinstated, but now he has to be observed in the field by a nerdy, cowardly union rep played by Dave Franco. So, it seems like kind of a fun concept to explore, this idea of union versus non-union jobs in Los Angeles, so a very down-to-earth topic thrown onto a canvas of vampires, which is, a very supernatural and mystical thing. And I pictured that it could go the comedic way of What We Do in the Shadows, which uses that sort of juxtaposition in pretty much every episode. But I have to say, it doesn't reach that level, not even close, and ends up being a pretty weak film overall. There are good things about it. Jamie Foxx is very charismatic and he has great chemistry with Dave Franco. And the action sequence choreography is actually pretty damn fun and entertaining. Manages to avoid the modern day plague of quick cuts and close camera angles. Which makes sense when you learn that the director of the film has been a stunt coordinator for many years and many films, including movies such as John Wick. So the action component does not disappoint. However, everything else does. The plot is all over the place. Some plot lines are introduced and never go anywhere, like the idea of different castes of vampires or the whole union versus non-union conflict. Others appear out of nowhere, almost as if some scenes were cut and the thing no longer makes sense, like the character of Heather, Jamie's neighbor, who turns out to be a vampire as well. The main villain gets some screen time and she's being built up to be this sort of realtor mobster who has some sort of grand plan, but then it doesn't matter in the slightest. In fact, the main characters only learn who she was after the fact, after they already kill her. So, you could have cut 20 minutes of her scenes and it wouldn't have changed the film in the slightest. So it all feels very clunky and kind of nonsensical. The dialogue is heavy on the exposition, the jokes aren't that funny. And the further the film progresses, the weaker it becomes. The first act was somewhat interesting for me. The middle part started to get boring outside of the fight sequence at the house with the other vampire hunters. And then by the final act, I was just completely checked out. I guess it might work if you want to get stoned with your friends on a Friday night and put on something that you don't need to pay too much attention to outside of the action scenes. But as anything else, I think the film completely fails.